Well, good Monday morning to you, and welcome to our live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy, with Doctors Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition.
Morning.
On Cowan Road in Gulfport. Good morning to both of you.
Morning.
Was this May 4th now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Christmas right around the corner.
It is, really. This is Star Wars Day. May the fourth be with you.
Okay.
Ah, okay.
Well, it was just something I saw.
Okay.
there.
Okay, I didn't know about that one.
Anyway.
Doesn't take much to amuse us, right?
No, it does not. This is our live edition, our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Of course, our phone lines are open at 896-0713, 800-349-0713. If you have a question for the doctors, you're more than welcome to call in and ask them either live on the air or just pass it along to our operator. We'll be glad to pass it along to them. We're talking this morning about diabetes and metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome, a disorder that typically involves a group of factors, which can be high blood pressure, obesity, high blood sugar, and these are all linked to an increased risk of heart disease and also diabetes too.
Right.
Type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, we're talking about type 2 diabetes because type 1 is not caused by metabolic syndrome.
Right.
So most of what we're going to be talking about in the show today will be type 2 when we talk about it.
Well, there's like 5 different things that can, if you have like 3 of these 5,
Right.
your chances of, of metabolic syndrome is pretty much diagnosed. Abdominal obesity, high triglycerides, high blood pressure, low HDL cholesterol, and high fasting blood sugar.
Right.
Yes.
Now, when they talk about that abdominal obesity, like if you're a guy, if your belt is over 40 inches, you might be. Okay, females 35, and you probably are. Okay, so that's the thing.
Although we are seeing more and more metabolic syndrome in people that aren't that overweight. Now, most people, even if they're not largely overweight, you've seen people like this, but right in the middle, they gain. Right in the middle. It don't even have to be huge.
Called the muffin top.
But when they gain in the
Fair
middle,
tire.
that is another sign. I think a lot of what they used to say is it had to be, you wanted over 40 or some of
Right,
that. But we're
35.
finding smaller and smaller people with metabolic syndrome.
Wow.
We're actually seeing some, they've got, you might know, they've got an acronym for it. TOFI, thin on the outside, fat on the inside. And what happens is you have a fatty liver, which the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is the fastest growing chronic problem we have in America today.
That's right, because a lot of people think, well, liver disease is alcohol related.
Yes, but this one's non-alcoholic.
Exactly.
It's non-alcoholic fatty liver. And you're seeing it in a lot of people with the metabolic syndrome. I had a 20-something-year-old the other day, and I'd already talked to her about changing her diet, and she was like, well, that's so hard to do, and because she was wanting weight loss. Well, she had a problem and went to the emergency room, and she got her stuff and brought it to me. Well, when they did a CT scan, she has fatty liver and fatty pancreas.
Wow.
And
Which
she's,
is pretty common.
I think, 23 years old. So we're seeing it younger and younger and younger, and it all goes back to that metabolic syndrome anyway. And all those people with metabolic syndrome are at real high risk for type 2 diabetes.
Right. Metabolic, the kind of progression they usually talk about is you develop the metabolic syndrome, which is insulin resistance.
Right.
And then that kind of goes, if it keeps going, it'll turn into what we call pre-diabetes.
Yep.
And then if it keeps going, diabetes type 2, that's where you're headed. So it is, we're seeing it younger and younger now in kids, like Janine said, 23-year-old. Used to, you'd see that in 50s and 60s and 70s
Right,
maybe.
right.
Now we're seeing it in teens. We're seeing teens with these metabolic syndromes. And, you start looking at the teens' diet, though. Come on.
Well, exactly. That's where I was going to mention is the fact that our diet has a lot to do with it. And,
Yes.
it seems like, well, one thing, Mississippi's #1 in type 2 diabetes.
Definitely.
It is.
And which is sad. But we love to eat down south.
Well, it's not just what we love to eat, but that we eat the wrong things.
We eat the wrong things. We eat too much of
Right.
the wrong things.
Right.
Too much of the wrong things, that's, I was talking to somebody just recently, and they had been working in like another state in a job, so they were out of state for a while. They lost weight. They were doing fine. Moved, got back home. The job finished, so they came back home, and within just a month or two, they'd gained like 10 or 15 pounds.
Wow.
And I said, okay, you can't continue doing that. If you do, and he was saying, well, maybe I need to move back to wherever.
You don't have to move just
You
to
don't have
eat right.
to move, you just have to do right.
We don't want everybody to move away so they can
No,
eat
no,
right.
no.
You want to just start eating differently
Well,
here.
eating differently, eating sensibly.
Yeah.
And just, there's little things. I see people, I work with some of them here that, they come in and they're first thing in the morning, I got a diet drink. You know,
Yes, and that's
which is
that has been linked to metabolic syndrome, just like regular drinks, any sugary drinks.
Right.
And I mean, it increases one drink a day increases metabolic syndrome greatly, even the diet drinks. And so they found that really water is what everybody needs to drink. So drink plenty of water, and then you don't have you could do unsweetened tea.
Yeah.
But everybody
Which is
wants
what,
to. Of
I'll
course,
do that if I'm having a meal out somewhere.
Yeah.
I always get unsweet tea.
And that's a good choice.
But of course, down south, everybody wants sweet tea.
Sweet tea or half and half.
Yeah,
I can tell you how many goes.
but
I want half and half
sweet
tea.
has a lot of sugar. If you've ever really made sweet tea where it was
yeah.
real sweet, it's loaded with sugar.
Give you a headache. I mean, if you're not, especially if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
Talk about a head rush.
Oh, yeah.
That sugar rush is like grabbing a regular drink and for the use of a Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just drinking one of those and just you haven't had one in a while.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
your body is not used. I mean, your body, your brain, it's just not used to
the
good.
sugar.
used
You
to
don't,
that sugar rush.
you don't want to get used to it.
No,
I mean,
you
that's the
don't.
thing is you don't want to actually do that. And the metabolic syndrome, it's not just about the weight gain. It's not just about the high blood pressure and all that. It's heart disease. They've shown that that's one of the biggest risk factors for heart disease is metabolic syndrome. So it's in strokes, and I mean, there's so many things that go with it. You're actually, and when we're seeing now the teenagers in the 20s, many of them having this. It's just not just one. I mentioned that one case, but we see it every day. What are they going to be like in their 40s?
Well,
If they make it.
and one of the
I
things,
hate to say,
yeah,
but if
one
they
of the
make
things
it.
that I liken it to is the fact that our society has got to where it is moving at such a faster pace
Yes.
that a lot of them don't think about
No.
eating sensibly. They're going to say, "I'll grab a donut on the way out the door.
Yeah.
I'll stop
A
at the fast food
bagel
place
or
or bagel or and that bagel with the cream cheese."
No.
No.
It's instant gratification society, and it's fast. It's actually anything that's convenience. And I always say, if you don't have the time, do like I do, cook on the weekend. Have it for all week, and that way when you go to get something, it's there.
Even for breakfast, we have a lot of people say, well, what do you do for breakfast? I mean, they just normally they'll grab the bagel or donut or something. How about keeping some boiled eggs in the fridge?
Yeah.
Just grab one of those guys on the way out. Got you a little bitty meal right there, all in one place.
And one of my friends upstairs, she that's what she has for breakfast.
Yeah, boiled
Boiled
eggs.
She
eggs.
brings in a couple of boiled eggs
Yeah.
every morning.
Well, it's easy.
And
Yeah.
she's in great shape.
It's easy.
You can
Yes.
grab it and take it with you. I mean, you really can. So that's why we say that there are things that you can do that with. It's just not the toast and the bagels and the bread and the donuts and all the stuff like that most people grab.
There's so many more ideas. And our phone lines are open, 896-0713, 800-349-0713. I was looking at your phone number there at the office, 897-0070. Threw me off for a second there, but 896-0713, 800-349-0713. You have a question for the doctors, and we're talking about diabetes and metabolic syndrome. So we'll be back in our second segment here in just a moment. And welcome back to our show. This morning we're talking about diabetes and metabolic syndrome. We are live, Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition. They're located on Cowan Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road, across from the old Garden Center, the old Kmart there. And our phone lines are open. Kiara's on the phones this morning, 896-0713, 800-349-0713. And we're talking about, easy things to do for breakfast. Another one I thought of when we went to break was, and it's actually, you can do it faster than boiling eggs. 5 minutes, scramble some eggs real quick in a skillet.
Yeah.
Put them in a little Tupperware thing, take them with you. And you can
Sure.
take a little fork, sit there and eat them at your desk or
Sure.
something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, you can do all
if you're
kinds
in
of
that big
things
of a
like
hurry.
that. Or, I've even got some that just they're hungry in the morning. I'll say, okay, fine, get you a handful of nuts.
I keep
Cashews, almonds,
keep those in my desk.
walnuts, pecans, all those things. Just a mixed nuts. I mean, they're great little snacks, to carry during the day too. If you have to have something, because they've got a lot of fats. One of the problems with metabolic syndrome and the prediabetes and so on is it's the overuse or overeating of the carbohydrates, especially the simple carbohydrates that cause, the bread, the rice, the pasta, things like that. That's what, and potatoes, throw those in. They're the ones that cause us an immediate rush of the glucose and an immediate response with the insulin, which is setting up for the insulin resistance. So that's one of the reasons we want to kind of cut back on those. And if you read the American Diabetic Association, they've got a website and they say avoid fats. I'm going to tell you this, if you start avoiding fats, you're going to wind up getting more sugars. So you got to have good fats.
Right.
And we stress good fats because most people's fat intake comes from the bad fats. which are coming from the packaged processed foods. Because 90 cents of every dollar spent on food in America is packaged processed food.
And how many times do you hear of people that say, okay, I'll go to the store and for lunch, I'll buy one of those TV dinners that's, you know, the
packaged
Packaged
processed food.
processed?
you know, the ones
That's
that are
right.
supposed to be with Weight Watchers or you know,
Yeah.
whatever,
You
anything
know,
like that.
they probably got some polysorbate 80 in there. We've talked about that before. It must be great stuff because it's in everything. I don't know what it is, but you know, and yellow dye number 6 and 3 and all that. You know,
Yeah, red
it's
dye
just
number 2.
Yeah, yellow, some another. You know, it's just amazing. You know, the stuff. And I don't. That's not food to me.
No.
But that's what they get. And you know, one of the things that we see, one of the problems for quickness and speed. Oh, I'll just grab some fruit. Well,
Right. Fruits have the sugars in them.
yeah. I mean, it's natural, but it's sugar, and you know, so therein lies another problem that we see
Yeah,
a lot of people turn to way too much fruit.
Especially
and-
people that have diabetes in their family.
Yeah.
They have type 2 diabetes. They actually have metabolic syndrome in their family. They
Right.
shouldn't do tons of fruit because fruit still is sugar. Now, you can have a little bit on certain fruits. Berries and apples are probably your best because they are good for you in very small amounts.
In small
They're
amounts,
not really
right.
made, a serving size is about 1/4 of a cup. It is not 2 cups. So a lot of times people do a serving size and they think they're having a serving of something and they're actually having 8 servings of fruit,
Right.
which is way too much for sugar.
Yeah.
You're better off with your vegetables. I mean, you're better off with the colorful vegetables and actually
Don't buy canned vegetables, please. I mean, that's not.
Best
do
not
more
to.
fresh.
No, I mean they keep them in aluminum cans, which is
Well, they've also got a plastic lining in those aluminum cans, which has the BPA, which is a whole nother show right
that'll be
there.
another
There
show.
was something I saw this weekend that actually showed that if they tested levels, they said there's actually a test they could do to see if somebody was likely to be type 2 diabetic, and it was testing the BPA in their bloodstream, in
Right.
urine. It was actually the higher levels of the BPA they have, the actual more likely they are to be diabetic later. And so that was kind of interesting because that's actually a chemical used in food processing.
Well, yeah, the BPA.
In plastics, well, it's in plastics,
It's in
I should
plastics,
say,
right.
containers.
Yeah.
Containers.
The BPA is bisphenol A, and bisphenol A has been used for years and years and years, and it is what we call an endocrine disruptor. Now, the endocrine system is hormones of all kinds. Insulin's a hormone, so it does that. But it'll also mess up your thyroid. It'll also mess up some of the other hormones. So we're seeing a lot of that, and like you said, now there's urine tests that they can check the excretion of it, and they're finding that even little kids are excreting way more of this stuff than they ever thought would be possible.
wow.
And when you look at insulin, and we mentioned insulin a few
Insulin, right.
times, that's one of the big things we see with metabolic syndrome, are people have real high fasting insulin.
Right.
And real high fasting insulin is not good. For one, insulin actually makes fat storage. Along with handling blood sugar, it actually stores fat. So these people can't lose weight because their insulin stays too high. But the insulin being high makes you insulin resistant. It makes the cells to where get so resistant because they have so much insulin. And what makes insulin spike? That is carbohydrates. So that's why we know it's the sugar and the carbohydrates that do it, because of the insulin. And your fasting insulin should be below 10, optimally below 5.
Optimal.
But we're seeing them at 30 and 40, and even some of the
Right.
teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
So we're seeing, and we can do those tests. I mean, like we always talk about testing. We have one of our panels, the weight loss panel. Now, you don't have to be overweight to do it, but it does a lot of the markers for metabolic syndrome because it does do your fasting insulin. It does do your A1C, which is a 3-month blood sugar average. It does triglycerides and HDLs and fasting blood sugar. So it does a lot of those tests. So if you're not sure if you're metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance, that panel is actually the one that you'd want to do because it has all the different markers that you need to see if that's part of your problem.
Even if you're not overweight.
Right, even if you're not overweight, because we are actually, he is a perfect example. He is definitely metabolic syndrome. Now, he keeps it completely controlled.
Right.
He does not have high triglycerides
Anymore.
He used to when he was young, in his 30s. So, I mean, he's had all that. He gains weight completely in the middle if he gains it. He used to have high blood pressure. He doesn't anymore. I mean, like I said, he has a lot of things that he does differently now, which controls it. And so he's one of the examples of even before he had lost some weight, he still wasn't what you'd call overweight, and he still had metabolic syndrome. So, you know, you don't have to be overweight. Now, I did want to stress that because we're seeing more heart attacks in thin people
Yes.
too, and it's because of the insulin and metabolic syndrome. That's the problem.
Because
and these thin people think they're okay because they're thin and they eat what they want. It doesn't necessarily work that way.
It's, you know, the thing about this metabolic syndrome sets up chronic inflammation throughout the body, everywhere, blood vessels, organs, you know, things like, and so it, you know, once you become chronically inflamed internally, your body just goes through all kinds of heaves and hoes because it's trying to change and trying to correct, and sometimes it can't do it. I mean, that's
Can't
the
keep
sad.
up.
Can't keep
with it.
up. Right,
Yeah.
right. You know, looking at it genetically, they say it takes about 40,000 years of being exposed to something for evolution to change the genes. We've only been farming for about 10,000 years, and we've only had the highly processed foods for the past 30 or 40 years. But in that 30 or 40 years, you know, our food supply has changed monumentally.
Oh, yeah.
But our genes are still the same genes we had 40,000 years ago.
Wow. Okay, we're going to see what we can do to help you out if you have some problems with metabolic syndrome. Our phone lines are 896-0713, 800-349-0713. This is our live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy. And welcome back to our Monday morning now live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy with Dr. Jim and Janine Fox. And of course, it is live this morning, and it will be rebroadcast this coming Friday at the same time on WLOX CBS. What is the cost to get testing done for STDs?
It depends on which
one.
ones you get done. I mean, so I do say that's a real broad question because now I think Hep C is 30, I think HIV is 30. We have the RPR, which is the syphilis test. I mean, I think it's around 30. I mean, so a lot of them, it depends on what all you get done. So probably call the office and tell us which, and then there's also another common one we do is the HPV 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And, you know, the herpes viruses and stuff like that. So you got to call and we do it specifically on each one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the question. Thanks for the call. Our phone line's 896-0713, 800-349-0713. Even though we're talking about diabetes and metabolic syndrome, always happy to answer any kind of questions that you have. Some of the things that we can do to help us out with metabolic syndrome. I know exercising is one of them.
Exercise.
Exercise is huge because inactivity is one of the leading problems.
Exactly.
You know, So, yeah.
Exercise and a low glycemic diet is number one.
And they have a great low glycemic diet at their
we do.
office. If you go by and
Just
just
come by
ask
and we'll
them,
give you one.
give you a
Yep.
copy of it.
And it's really got some good food in it, you know, because you're talking about meats,
Yeah.
vegetables, nuts, and seeds, a tiny bit of fruit. I mean, what's not to like about that?
Right.
I mean,
Just real
It's
food.
good. It
it's
really
good
is.
food.
It really
yeah,
is.
it's real food. Yeah.
And we also have a few supplements. And the two of the main supplements we use for metabolic syndrome and for type 2 diabetes, we actually do have on special this week.
Right.
So that is the 25% off special. And one is actually called Berberine Max.
Okay.
And the Berberine Max, there's a lot of studies that have been done on it to actually
Huge.
show how it actually helps control
There it is.
blood sugar. So the Berberine Max is one thing. The glucose support formula is another one, which it is your combination of your chromium, vanadium, alpha lipoic acid, gymnema sylvestre, cinnamon. So there's a lot of things that have, and it even has bitter melon. It has a
Has
few
all the
other
stuff in
ingredients too, but things that have been shown to actually help the body utilize insulin better. And so that's kind of the two things that we have on special since it's what we're talking about. And it does help. I even have people say it jumpstarts their weight loss when they do start the low glycemic diet because it starts changing their metabolism a little bit.
Right.
So both of those products are actually really good at helping, although what I tell people is no matter what you take from us or medicines, you can't just eat what you want and expect to control it.
No.
We have people that come in on 5 different diabetic medications and they're still blood sugars 300 and 400. So you can't, medications alone don't do it, supplements alone don't do it. You have to change what you eat.
So
And
you
then
gotta
exercise,
cut out the
like you
fried
said.
foods.
Yeah.
Wait, fried foods is not the big deal because that's mostly the fats.
Although-
okay?
Yeah.
although
we
you
say
got
no-
the wrong fats.
We,
right.
And we say no fried foods because of what they're battered with.
They're
battered with
breaded.
flour. And flour is
Bread.
simple
Right.
carbohydrates. It's bread, exactly. It's
Right.
breading on the outside of whatever you've fried it with. If you lightly saute something in
Yeah.
a good fat,
Yeah.
then you're okay. But you don't want breaded.
Right.
All right, I think
Yep.
John is on the line from Gulfport. Good morning, John. Oh, he's not.
Oh, no. Okay.
He was.
I thought he was. Okay. There we go.
There he is.
John
There he
from-
is.
Okay. Eat
Okay.
fat fruit for breakfast.
Now he eats fruit
Which
for
fruits are
breakfast.
highest in sugar.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is the highest in sugar.
Well, the banana's probably the worst.
Yeah, bananas, raisins,
Right.
guava, mango,
Mm-hmm.
prunes.
Those are all the
those are all some of the worst.
High sugar.
And I do tell people, if you're going to eat a little fruit for breakfast, apples.
How about
and
muskmelons or
cantaloupe and things?
cantaloupe
if you
stuff?
do
Not as bad.
a little bit, it's okay, but you don't want a whole lot. But if you're going to eat fruit, eat something else with it.
Get some
Because
fat
what
with it,
happens is you're eating fruit and it really spikes that insulin. And so you're having that spike at the beginning of the day that's going to last pretty much most of the day.
It sets you up for failure the rest of the day.
It does.
Yeah, it's going to set up that high insulin load early on. And so the body's kind of overproducing insulin. So that's just going
Another
to set
thing
up
we
that
didn't
insulin
mention,
resistance.
people
Right.
say, well, I'm hungry all the time. Well, you're going to be when your insulin spikes. With high insulin, it also makes you hungry. So the problem is people eat that fruit, it spikes their insulin, then they're hungry an hour later and then they start eating. So if you eat something, maybe have a handful of berries with some scrambled eggs. That might be a better option for breakfast rather than doing, just fruit. But bananas, which is easy to grab, is one of the worst on high sugar.
What about some of these? You see some people having these protein shakes
Yes.
for breakfast.
And you can do those as long as they're not sweetened with artificial sweeteners.
Okay.
And you also don't want them with a lot of sugar. So you got to
Okay.
look at what they have
Low
in them.
sugar.
And most of the time, you need to add a little fat.
Okay.
No, if nothing else, maybe a tablespoon of
Because
olive oil.
I have one that I'll have like a few days a week.
Yep.
It's a whey protein shake. It has like negative sugar.
Yep.
But I'll throw a handful of blueberries in there.
We do have
some
another
fat
caller,
in
but
it.
I don't like grinding up fruit. If you're going to do fruit, eat your fruit. Do not grind it.
Really?
They've shown that it actually spikes the insulin quicker.
Oh,
All
this
right.
is an easy one.
Diane from Lumberton, what kind of dairy do you suggest for everyday intake?
You don't,
Zero.
You don't
Really?
you don't have to have dairy. Now, it's not completely, we do have a lot of people that have sugar handling problems that say even if they drink a little bit of milk, it tends to spike their sugar. So
Right.
we do hear that a lot. Now, if you're going to do it, you're better off if you do yogurt, it needs to be
Plain.
Plain. No fruit, no flavor. No vanilla, none of that because it's full of sugar.
Now, what about organic milk?
Like,
Well, it's
organic's
still
okay,
sugar.
but you're still
Yeah.
going to actually, if
Yeah.
you really have a problem, it's going to actually still can elevate the sugar.
And
So
if you're going to do it, you want to make sure it's whole milk rather than
That's what I
reduced
do.
fat.
I
Right.
drink the organic whole milk.
Right.
Right.
But I don't do it every day. I might
Right.
do it
Yeah.
a few days a week.
And some people can do the cottage cheese as well. So I mean,
Oh.
I'm not a big fan of it.
Oh.
I'm not a big fan of dairy, and a lot of
Okay,
people have dairy allergy. So
Right,
if
right.
you have any allergy to dairy, stay away from it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, dairy is just, the hormones in the dairy is another issue.
That's another
too,
problem
so.
is the hormones.
No, we talk about that
Yeah,
just about every show, the hormones and some of the
Yeah.
foods that we eat. So
Right.
that's one of the major things that you have to really be aware of and try to go as much organic
Yeah.
as you can.
But you mentioned those we have more people that come in that thinking they're being really good and making those smoothies and adding all this fruit to it. And when we do their lab work, their triglycerides are off the charts. I
Really?
mean, it is horrible for triglycerides to eat that much ground up fruit. Do
And
not
protein.
juice your fruit.
Your body can take that protein, and this is a fact for you. The body can take protein and turn it into sugar rather quickly
If it has to.
if it has to. And it sees a big load of something coming in that it can't use, it's just
Yeah, if
automatically
you do
going to
the
repackage
if
it.
you do a protein drink, which I do in the morning, you don't want one that actually has 40, 50 grams of protein. It's too much at a time.
20,
Probably more
25.
like 20. So
And
like
have
I
some
said,
fat in it.
Yeah.
When you use a lot of that colostrum
Well, I
stuff.
use colostrum, which
Yeah.
does have. I use mostly colostrum, which actually is where most of the protein that I eat comes from.
And most of the fat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And colostrum is just a really good source for the immune system.
Okay. I think we have another caller. Okay.
Huh?
Oh, there we go. Gigi from Wiggins, is stevia a good sugar substitute?
It is, I mean, it's one of the better ones. I always tell people try to get away from the sweet taste if you can.
Right.
But stevia or xylitol to me are the two better ones if you're going to do something.
Yeah.
So that is one of the better ones. My whey protein that I do in the morning is sweetened with stevia.
Well, exactly. Yeah, my coffee. That's what
Yeah.
is sweetened with stevia.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
All right, we got 30 seconds left. Next week,
We're going to talk about the eyes.
Eye prevention,
Eye prevention, yeah.
Yeah.
How to keep these guys healthy.
yes.
which is important.
Real.
I know for sure, because mine were bad from the age of 5. So anyway, thank you for being with us. This show will be rebroadcast on Friday here on WLOX CBS at 9 a.m. Have a great week. Live healthy and be healthy.